On Peshaw's Business People, we're in Taiwan to meet one of the first foreign-born entrepreneurs to make a real impact on this region, Bialylew. He's with me here on BBC World News.
Bialylew was one of the first foreign-born entrepreneurs to make a major impact in Taiwan. Now on BBC World News, Michael Peshawd visits him at one of his homes in Taiwan as they talk about the extraordinary transformation of his adopted country. Peshawd's Business People.
Now on Peshaw's Business People, meet Bialylew. He shows us a side of Taiwan rarely seen.
I was really trying to showcase Taiwan to the world because this country is not well known, is underestimated.
Hello and welcome to Peshaw's Business People, where we talk to the most important business leaders in the Asia Pacific and beyond.
Embracing can-do, embracing great service, in recognizing a job well done.
It's an eye-opener, something to learn.
We spend time with them, really getting to know who they are and how they run their companies.
Know that. You did the research. Oh, it's all part of an overall master plan.
It's a rare chance for a real inside look at those leading the world in business.
A nice person.
It is a nice She's a very nice person.
This week I'm in Taiwan, one of the original Asian tiger economies, of course. Now, I've come here to meet a man who was one of the first foreign-born entrepreneurs to make a major impact here, but also throughout the whole of Asia. Bialylew is a highly unconventional business leader. He campaigns tirelessly for environmental causes and for the protection of children's rights. He's also a strong advocate of everything that's been achieved here.
They managed to become one of the Asian tiger, you could say, despite everything. And this gave them a kind of go-getter attitude, which is very, very strong.
Bialylew was born in France. At the age of 19, he became a tour manager. After moving to Asia, he was appointed the Asia-Pacific CEO of tourism operator Gulliver's Travels. He later acted as chairman, becoming a significant shareholder. In 2005, the Gulliver's business was sold for around $750 million. I spent 4 days with Bernard in Taiwan. This country does guard itself carefully. The Chinese government in Beijing sees it as theirs, while the majority here want to stay independent. Modern Taiwan is very much a product of the Chinese Civil War between the communists and the nationalists, led by Chiang Kai-shek.
We are in Chiang Kai-shek Memorial. What you can see, the white building, is the tomb where the dictator Chiang Kai-shek, who led the Nationalist Army against Mao Zedong in China.
So he's the one who effectively fought Mao Zedong.
That's right. Lost the Civil War,
yeah,
and took the whole army and their families to Taiwan, and then ruled Taiwan until now. Ideally, they wanted to use Taiwan as a platform to go back and retake China. But history can tell you it never happened that way.
There are many reasons why I wanted to come here, but one of the main reasons, I think, was because you only ever see this place in terms of stories about a crisis between here and the People's Republic of China. But this is very much, well, one of your homes. What for you is the attraction?
When I first came here in the 70s, there was a curfew. All the lights were out at 9 o'clock. They had air raid shelters on every block, and every few hours they had training, warning, siren for
So they
people
were that
to train.
they were that worried that there'd be an invasion, yeah?
They were worried. And the pace of development and democratization since that time has been phenomenal. I've never seen any country anywhere in the world to develop so fast in such a short period of time.
How has it managed to change so quickly?
It's a kind of spirit because everything was against business. The political situation, the lack of freedom, the lack of international recognition, etc., was a hindrance. But despite all this, they still managed to build a very prosperous business. Those people managed to overcome any kind of difficulty, anything that got thrown in their way, between the politics, the earthquake, the typhoons, and all sorts of things. They are still standing proud and still getting on with it.
This is one of the most obvious signs of economic success. The bullet train service links the major cities, travelling at speeds of up to 300 kilometres an hour. I was still trying to work out exactly how Taiwan had managed to come so far, so fast.
Just like the other tigers, is the government had a very hands-on approach to business. Up to the time martial law was lifted in the mid-80s, there was no imports allowed. Therefore, the domestic industries could actually prosper without any competition.
I remember when I was growing up, it seemed to be that everything was made in Taiwan at one time.
When I was a tour guide in Paris, you could buy those little Eiffel Towers, you know, the golden Eiffel Towers in plastic, and they were made in Taiwan.
Right.
These days, they are made in China. But it may still be the same companies that used to do them, but the factories have shifted to China because of the cost of operation.
So what do people here actually do? Where's all the money coming from?
For example, most of the big American computer firms are having their subcontractors to do their monitors and their chips, etc., done here.
So the Intel chips, they're all from here?
Yeah, most of them are contracted here. I can also name Dell, IBM, they all have parts done here. Taiwan is number one for microchip, is number one for monitors.
We left the train to watch a show designed to showcase this country's cultural diversity. There is a variety of Aboriginal, indigenous ethnic groups here, much more closely linked to Polynesia and Micronesia than they are to China and the mainland. It seemed the perfect time to talk about the cultural differences between doing business in Asia compared to Europe.
Oh, it's entirely different. First of all, the ethics are different. The interrelation and communication between people is different.
In what way?
In Asia, for example, I used to say to my European staff, there's three yes. The yes who means yes, the yes who means maybe, and the yes who means no. The first time I came to Taiwan, 76 or 77, to do business, the day I left at the airport, I was so elated. I thought I had the whole island business into my pocket because nobody could give me enough encouragement and this and that. By the time I arrived and months after months chasing for the business, it never came. And then I start to learn that actually they don't like to tell you bad news. They only like to give you good news.
So you get
so
all
when
this
you get no response, then you understand it means no business. So I had to work very, very, very hard to change this into more positive business results.
How do you do that? Because you say you want to be obviously sympathetic to the way different people do different things, but obviously if you want to force your point in some way.
Well, the first way we did it is we employ staff in Europe, all across Europe, in every country, who speak the language of the people we were handling. So we had Thai-speaking staff, Chinese-speaking staff, Indonesian-speaking staff, etc., etc. And we always deliver what we promise. This is the most important. Your word is your bond. If you don't have a word here, you don't have basically, you're nobody. You're nothing.
Right. Okay.
And
do you see a lot of people in business making basic mistakes?
yeah, there's still a lot of people who are trying to follow what we started doing in Asia, and they're not succeeding very well because they're taking shortcuts. They don't try to listen. What's very important is to listen, not have the customer do what you want him to do. You're supposed to do what he wants you to do.
Bernard now spends most of his time as a voluntary ambassador for this internet book and cartoon series entitled Cyberdodo. It's being launched all over the world. Aimed at children, the purpose is to promote the UN Declaration to protect the rights of the child.
It starts at the basic level. You know, the rights of the child is basically a right to education, a right to health, and a right not to be abused, and a right to be a child. So child labor is a problem in many countries, from Indonesia to India to Sri Lanka to Thailand even. Countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan is pretty rare, and those governments are actually very strongly opposing it and do have a very strong education system to cater. For example, many places in Hong Kong, when the police see children in the street when they should be at school, they would actually take them back to school.
Right.
It's really... Other countries, maybe because the rural... the people living in the countryside have very hard life and they need their children to help them. This is where it really starts.
Right.
Then they go into debt. So then they would basically sell their children to work in factories or whatever.
That still goes on.
That still goes on. And even to the point of selling them into prostitution.
What about the attitude of business? Because in many ways they could be the salvation, but I'm guessing they're also at times contribute to the problem.
You have big companies from America or Europe. We won't say names here, but they do employ. They do have subcontractors employing children in their family and in their factories. And to be fair, when they know, they tend to stop it. But they don't do enough to actually check what their subcontractors are doing.
Not asking enough questions.
Yeah, that's right. Because at the end of the day, profit is profit-driven. I've been invited, for example, to visit several villages in Indonesia where apparently the government is not providing local schools because so the education on the East Java coast is very poor. So we're going to try and discuss with the government how they can improve the situation. So A, we get information, B, we get support, and C, we get donation, because unfortunately, in this world, nothing can be done without funds.
After the break, more from Taiwan as we examine the complex relationship between this place and the government in Beijing. Welcome back to Taiwan, where we're with Bernard Bialylew, one of the first foreign-born entrepreneurs to make a real impact here. By any standards, Taiwan is an economic powerhouse. The official estimate is that as a country, it now holds the fourth largest stock of foreign exchange reserves. In the 1970s, for instance, exports rose tenfold. Interestingly, mainland China, not the United States, is now its largest trading partner. And it's reckoned that more than 1 million Taiwanese now live and work on the mainland. In the capital, Taipei, I was on my way to see the view from another of the country's crowning achievements. Once the first, but now the second tallest building in the world. Not surprisingly, this is a very popular place with tourists. We are, well, more than half a kilometre up in the air here. And the view, well, it normally stretches forever, except for this week. Taiwan has been affected by a massive sandstorm. Now, the sand has actually originated from the deserts in Mongolia and been swept all the way to here. Another reminder of the geographical proximity with the Chinese mainland.
And now she's infusing in a smaller pot, she's infusing the tea. And then after infusing the tea, she's basically filtering it.
At a local tea house, we discussed the relationship that will inevitably shape the future.
It's been a tense relationship politically for 50 years. But at the same time, most Taiwanese go on holiday to China. Half of or 30% of the Taiwanese have family in China and vice versa. So at the government level, it's very tense. At people-to-people level, it is not so tense.
The problem is, of course, is that although people get on, very often it's governments that decide things.
Yes.
Do you think there is going to be a conflict? Obviously, that's what the world worries about.
I don't believe there will be a conflict because it will be really suicide for both sides. Taiwanese army may be small, but it's supported by America, therefore it's quite powerful. And at the end of the day, if China really want to play strong arm tactics, all they have to do is blockade the island. And within a very short time, the island will have to surrender.
So you think in the end there'll be some sort of deal?
There will be some sort of deal because you just can't go on forever like this. It may take another 10 years, it may take 5 years, it may take 20 years, but at the end there will be some sort of political, I wouldn't like to say integration, but maybe close association. I believe in the end they are very pragmatic people and they will come to some kind of agreement.
The next day, we were in the southern city of Kaohsiung, a city at the forefront of policies to improve the environment. I've been invited to meet the hugely powerful local mayor. As it turned out, there were other dignitaries too in town that day.
She has a foreign guest, the ex-president of the Philippines, Fidel Ramos. She basically invited us to be at the same say hello kind of.
So we're with the next president, are we? We're in the same.
Yeah.
Oh, we like that.
Yeah, it could happen.
It's interesting, I suppose, that this place doesn't get that much international.
No, don't forget Taiwan is not recognized internationally, therefore they get very few foreign guests. I would say you represent the foreign media, and the foreign media is always welcome at this kind of event. And Michael Peshard is a very nice name to invite to.
That's true. That's true. As it happens, our meeting did in fact make the local evening news, but I missed it. As is Chinese custom, Bernard had arranged a series of banquets for me to meet as many people as possible. He and many of his friends are strict vegans. They eat no meat nor any animal product of any kind. Bernard is also a keen supporter of this new vegan fast food chain, The Loving Hut. It now has more than 100 branches throughout Asia.
When I eat a lot of meat during all these banquets and business meal and this, I can see all the people getting to a certain age around me, they're getting obese, like I was as well. I'm still quite big, but I was enormous. And a lot of people do get a lot of disease. Right. And eating meat has been proven to be the greatest cause of cancer and heart disease, of any other things we can possibly do or consume, except maybe alcohol and tobacco.
But you don't consume those either?
No, I don't consume those either because I would say you need your mind to be sharp, and if you drink, then you cannot always be that sharp, and it's quite easy to let it slip. I used to drink a lot when I was entertaining for business, and the day I stopped drinking is the day I realized I put down a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label and I didn't feel a thing. Then I thought it was really time to stop. And we're trying to get children used not to eat so much meat and so much animal fat because it really damages them. You also have to think, when you kill an animal, the animal knows it is going to die. So he's got all sorts of panic and fear, hormones, you could say, how do you call it, cortisol, you know, the stress hormone, adrenaline, and all this is poison you.
I've enjoyed the last few days because we've been eating purely vegetarian, and I have enjoyed it. The thing is, though, I probably will go back to a steak when I get at home.
That's up to you, but at least you make an educated choice. You know there is something else. So the day your doctor tells you your ticker is going, why? Then you know, oh, I remember all these nice vegetarian meals I had in Taiwan. And then you can eat healthily.
I shall remember you at that moment.
But the choice is yours.
Now, I know that after the business was sold, you sort of were retiring.
Yeah.
And that hasn't worked out. Now, there are lots of people watching this programme who would love to be in your position, can think of nothing better than retiring and doing nothing.
Well,
what is your advice?
I started like this, to be honest, because when I sold the company and was looking at direction what to do now, thinking too long, not moving much, and finally you just can't. I mean, you get to find something in life to elevate you, to make your brain work, your energy going. So I thought, well, the world is in such a mess, what can I do to help? So I chose the cause of children.
Well, Bernard, very best of luck. It's been an absolutely fantastic few days.
Thank you very much to come and see us, and I hope you will come again.
Thank you very
much.
much.
You are very welcome.
Thanks
Thank you.
a lot.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Next week, we visit what may well be the single biggest construction project on the planet. Meet Matthew Pryor in Singapore. He's in charge of building it, and he's with me next week.
Going beyond